Hey everybody, it's Veronica Morse, and today I am answering your questions. We have asked on Instagram, hey, what are some real estate questions that you have? And I have 4 great questions here that I am answering today that has to do with both buyers and sellers. So listen up, let's talk about number 1. I am looking to buy a new home. I know I need to be competitive in this market, but I need to sell my current home in order to afford the next one. What are some suggestions that you may have for me? So there are a lot of different options. I always recommend, hey, talk to professionals, talk to your financial advisors, talk to some lenders, and get it all going. Now, the first option, you could do a contingent offer. However, in a competitive market, sometimes it's not going to fly. A contingent offer is essentially you are making an offer on the new one, but you're saying, hey, it's contingent on my current home selling. So until this sells, I can't close on this one. So why it's not super attractive in a competitive situation is because, the sellers are going to have to wonder, well, when is your house going to sell? When is your house going to close if it closes, right? So there are a lot of unknowns, which makes it less attractive. Now, there are going to be different options. Maybe there's what's called a bridge loan. So if you go to a lender that does bridge loans, they can essentially bridge that gap. So you might be, you might be paying more in fees and higher interest rates for a little bit, but they're essentially lending you on the new home, and their, mortgage base is kind of a back on your old mortgage. And then once you sell this home, you move all of it over and pay for the new loan. So that's an option as well. Another one is a lot of people don't recognize is if you have a lot of money in your stock accounts, RSUs, you could take a security-based loan off of those. So maybe depending on what you have in there, you could take 80% of it, have a market interest rate on it, and essentially kind of use that to float the in-between. You sell your old home, you pay that loan back. Lots of different options. So if you ever have questions on that, talk to myself, talk to some lenders, talk to some financial advisors. And of course, we always know quite a few if you need some referrals. All right, that's a great question. Number 2, how long does it take to buy a home start to finish? And that's kind of a tough one because it's very dependent. You could close. I've seen some lenders close in a few weeks. So let's say that you entered the market, found your home on the very first day, and then you had a quick lender that could close it in 2 to 3 weeks. That could be as sure as it can be. I've also had clients that have taken, much longer. If they start your process and you're particular about what kind of home you're looking for, this could take a year, 2 years to find the right home. And then there's new construction. Sometimes if you're buying new construction from ground zero or that it's still dirt, you're going to take a year or however long to close on that home. So it's really dependent, but yes, it could be as quick as 2 to 3 weeks to as long as a year, to as long as you find the right home for you. Great question. Number 3, what's the deal with Washington Excise Tax? So Washington Excise Tax is something that all sellers have to worry about. So buyers, you might not have to worry about it now, but if you sell your home, it's just something that no Washington seller or homeowner can get away from, unfortunately. So on every sale of a Washington real estate, you pay what's called an excise tax. Now this is on a tiered basis. So from 0 to I think it's 500 or 525,000, it's taxed at a 1.1%. Then from 525 to 1 above $1 million, it's I think 1.5. It's a 1.28, and then it keeps essentially going up from different brackets of the purchase price, the sale price. So, for example, on a $1.2 million home, you're probably going to be paying about $20,000 in excise tax. If you sell a $2 million home, you could pay about $41,000 in excise tax. So it's definitely a number that some home sellers, especially if you've never sold in Washington before, it's a kind of a surprise for people. But again, everyone has to do it. Unfortunately, it's just the way that it goes. And if your house is in a great location, greatly priced, you could get a lot of multiple offers that help kind of help with that, or maybe buyers offer to pitch in to lower some of that too. You never know. So that's the deal with Washington State Excise Tax. Cannot get around it. Number 4, our last question today, is it better to buy a fixer-upper with these prices in these higher end areas? And this is a question I actually get pretty often. So is it better? It's all going to depend on your specific situation. I do have people that end up going, you know what, I'd rather just buy a home that's not as fixed up, so it's less competitive, and then I'm just going to remodel it myself. And that's great. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's better. It's just that it also, you have to calculate on yourself the return on time for you, not just the ROI, the return on investment, but the return on time. You have to understand that, picking out fixtures, finding vendors, which we always help with, but, it's also if you're living there, can you live with construction for X amount of months? If you're doing so while you still are living in another home, can you afford both mortgages or both the mortgage and rent while you're rehabbing and doing all that? Obviously, what I suggest to always tell my clients is that a rehab is going to take 10% more time, 10% more money, and probably 10% more just patience in general. So it really depends on your specific situation. Sometimes you can really make it your own. That's the positive thing. You can pick out your fixtures, have it exactly how you want. And sometimes, you end up building more equity in the home than you would have just buying a, recently updated home on the other side. So those are your 4 great questions. We would love to do some more Q&As. So you submit your questions, you comment below, and we look forward to answering more questions down the road.